Hi there, I'm Capri Lily. Welcome back to my channel. Today is Fermentation Fridays, and I'll be showing you how to lacto-ferment vegetables at home. Fermentation might seem like a complicated process, but it's actually one of the simplest and oldest ways to preserve food. With salt, water, and thyme, beneficial bacteria transform fresh vegetables into something tangy, delicious, and packed with probiotics. Today, I'll be showing you 3 of my favorite ferments: crunchy lacto-fermented cauliflower and carrots, and my all-time favorite, beet ginger sauerkraut. Each one has its own texture, its own flavor, but the process is surprisingly similar. Once you understand the basics of lacto-fermentation, you'll be able to ferment almost any vegetable or fruit at home. Today, I'll show you exactly how it works. Let's get started. Before we jump right in, I want to show you some lacto-fermented cucumbers that I made just last week. Now, lacto-fermented cucumbers are a lot different from cucumbers that have been pickled in vinegar. Both have a tangy taste, but pickled vegetables are made with vinegar, which quickly lowers the pH and gives that sharp flavor, but it doesn't involve fermentation or create beneficial bacteria. With lacto-fermentation, salt is used, and over time, the pH gradually drops as natural bacteria convert the sugars into lactic acid. This creates a more complex flavor and can provide beneficial bacteria that support gut health. And because this is natural fermentation, the flavor keeps developing over time, and the longer it sits, the more tangy and complex the flavor becomes. I love lacto-fermented cucumbers, and once you make them this way, it's kind of hard to go back. The flavor is so good. It's a bit of an acquired taste, but once you get used to it, it's almost addicting. So good. Okay, let's start fermenting. I think I'll have another one. To start, you're going to grab your veggies for fermenting. Here I have turnips, but any root vegetables work. You can slice them any way you like, in quarters or halves. I like to make thin slices like this. I'm also adding shallots, peppers, and garlic. They add flavor and deepen the complexity of the ferment, but I especially like the flavor the peppers bring. It gives just a little bit of heat that mellows out as it ferments. Then you're going to add everything to the jar in layers. I like to add a few slices of veggies, then add the shallot, garlic, rosemary, or even thyme. Just make sure to pack the jar as much as you can. I'm adding bay leaves and some peppercorn. Bay leaves aren't just for flavor. They contain tannins that help maintain the structure of the vegetables, so they stay a bit crisp as they ferment. I pretty much always add them when I'm lacto-fermenting veggies and peppercorns too. They add a gentle spice and aromatic oils that infuse into the brine and give it a more layered flavor without overpowering it. Now, if you have a scale, this is the time to grab it. This is one of the most reliable ways to ferment because it gives you consistency every time. I zero out the jar, then add water and measure the weight of the water. Here I have 1,043 grams of water. I'm using a 4% salt solution, so I'll multiply that by 0.04, which gives me about 41 grams of salt. This method is more precise than measuring by volume because fermentation depends on having the right salt concentration. Too little salt and you risk unwanted bacteria. Too much salt and it can slow down the fermentation. Using a scale takes the guesswork out and creates the ideal environment for beneficial bacteria to thrive. In my home, it tends to be a bit more humid, so I found that using a slightly higher salt concentration, around 4%, helps keep the ferment more stable and prevents unwanted bacteria from taking over. Once everything's in, I'll give the jar a gentle shake to help dissolve the salts and evenly distribute the brine. Then I add a fermentation weight to keep everything submerged. Anything exposed to air can grow mold, so keeping the ingredients under the brine helps to protect the ferment. To finish, I'm using a 3-piece fermentation airlock. It creates a one-way system that lets carbon dioxide escape as the vegetables ferment, while preventing oxygen from getting in. It's really helpful because it keeps the environment stable, so you don't have to constantly monitor or burp the jar. I can't tell you how much getting this was such a game changer for me, and it gives me so much leeway because I don't have to check my ferments every single day. Now, once I'm done, I always like to label my jars with the date so I can track how long they've been fermenting. And that's it. Now let's get into this carrot and cauliflower mix, and I'll show you a different way to calculate your salt brine solution. One of the reasons I love lacto-fermented foods is because you're not just preserving the vegetables, you're transforming them at a biochemical level. As fermentation begins, lactic acid bacteria produces enzymes that break down carbohydrates and plant fibers into simpler compounds. At the same time, they produce lactic acid, which lowers the pH and helps preserve vegetables by keeping harmful microbes from growing. Fermented foods can contain live strains like lactobacillus, which may support the gut microbiome and digestion. And fermentation can also reduce certain compounds like phytic acid, making nutrients like iron and zinc easier for your body to absorb. So you're taking something simple like carrots and cauliflower and turning it into something more bioavailable, more functional, and more complex in flavor. Now I'm just adding the cauliflower and carrots to the jar and pressing them down as I go to pack everything in tightly. You want everything packed snugly so the vegetables stay submerged once we add the brine. The tighter the pack, the more stable the environment for fermentation to happen. Now for the brine, if you don't have a scale, this is a really simple method you can use. What you'll do is use about 1 tablespoon of salt for every 2 cups of water, which gives you roughly 3% salt solution. That's a good range for most vegetable ferments. Just stir until the salt fully dissolves, then pour the brine over the vegetables, and repeat this until everything is completely covered. The goal is that every ingredient in the jar is fully submerged in the saltwater brine so the fermentation stays anaerobic and protected. Next, I add a fermentation weight. Even though this one is plastic, it's heat, chemical, and acid resistant, so it's very stable and won't interfere with the ferment or the flavor. I like using a weight because it keeps all the small pieces fully submerged. When little bits float to the top and get exposed to the air, that's when you increase the risk of mold. Some people use plastic bags filled with salt water, which can work, but I have found this method to be much cleaner and more reliable. So now I have my lacto-fermented cauliflower with carrots. You see the recipe for both is almost exactly the same. The veggies, the spices, the herbs, the peppers, and some garlic, and any kind of flavoring you want to add, and of course the salt water brine. Now I'm going to move on to making the beet ginger sauerkraut. And you'll see the lacto-fermentation method for making sauerkraut is a little bit different, and that's because the cabbage sits in salts. The salt draws out the moisture, creates its own brine, and that brine is what's used to ferment the cabbage to create the sauerkraut that we all love. So let me show you how to make my favorite sauerkraut recipe. Like any sauerkraut recipe, start with your cabbage, remove the outer leaves, and set them aside. You can use them later as a natural barrier to keep everything submerged if you'd like. Then shred your cabbage. You can do this by hand with a knife or use a food processor to save time. For my beet ginger sauerkraut, I always use purple cabbage. It's rich in anthocyanins, which are powerful antioxidants that give it that deep, vibrant color. Now grab your scale and measure your cabbage. For this recipe, I'm using 800 grams of cabbage. Now I grate my ginger. I love the flavor it brings. It adds warm, slightly spicy, almost zesty note that really brightens the ferment. I use about 60 grams. Then I shred my beets. There's no need to peel them. The skin contains additional fibers and nutrients. Just make sure to rinse them well. And I'm using about 400 grams of shredded beets. That brings a total to about 1,260 grams. And for this batch, I use 50 grams of salt, which gives me a roughly 4% salt ratio. I find that this amount of salt creates a really stable ferment with great flavor. Now just mix the salt in very well. Then cover your sauerkraut with a cloth and let it sit for at least 1 hour. This step allows the salt to draw out moisture through osmosis, creating the natural brine you'll need. Once it's rested, give it a good massage for a few minutes to release even more liquid. You can see the liquid coming from the cabbage here. I like to massage my cabbage for a good 5 minutes, then transfer everything to a jar. Now take a wooden tamper or spoon and press the sauerkraut down firmly. This helps push out more liquid and removes air pockets. And yes, I tried covering mine with a plastic bag to avoid staining. It was messy, so we're just embracing a little extra cleanup here. Keep adding and pressing until the brine rises above the cabbage. That's what you want. Everything fully submerged. And pour the remaining liquid from the bowl into the jar. Then take a clean cloth or paper towel and wipe down the sides of the jar. You can stop here and seal it, but if there's too much space at the top like there is here, I like to add a little extra brine at the same salt percentage. This helps minimize oxygen exposure, which reduces the risk of mold or unwanted bacteria. Seal the jar, and this is where the airlock really shines. Sauerkraut needs at least 2 weeks to ferment, and the airlock lets carbon dioxide escape while keeping oxygen out, so you don't have to remember to burp the jar every day. This method has been the most consistent and most reliable for me. And that's it. Now we have our sauerkraut, turnips, and lacto-fermented cauliflower and carrots. I hope you enjoyed this video. In part 2, I'll show you how these ferments progress day by day, how to monitor them, and what to look for as they develop. Plus, we'll taste the final result. So stay tuned for the next video and don't forget to subscribe.